All right, wonderful. So I'm excited even more now to be able to bring you one of my colleagues, a woman I've known for several years, and I've watched her grow her business. She actually helped me stumble through a nonprofit that I put together, and I've watched her not only grow her business, but grow many other businesses and get involved at the government level in helping diverse businesses to move forward. And at this time, please put your hands together for Ms. LaPronda Spann. I would have told you her title, but I jacked it up, so I'll let her do that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know it's raining outside, but it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood anyway, right?
Yes, it is.
You're here. All right, so my name is LaPronda Spann, and I am the owner, dream builder, and chief visionary architect of Lane Consulting, LLC. We are a full-service consulting firm that specializes in diversity certification support services, which means we help you get certified to do business with government and major corporations. I also do supplier growth planning, because once you get certified, that's not enough. You have to know where you want to go in terms of growth in your business. And so government contracting, major corporate contracting is a way to do that. We also help government do program development, because what we know is as much as they can do their job, there are many things that needs to happen for them to meet their own contracting goals in terms of getting you contracts as minority, women-owned, and small businesses. And then finally, I am a government contractor, so I'm telling you about my own success in getting certified and then landing a contract, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this presentation. So here I'll tell you a little bit about my own personal journey in entrepreneurship and government contracting. I'll talk about the 5 steps that I believe are critical in landing a premium contract, specifically in government contracting. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then hopefully I can give you some valuable tips in terms of how you can use this to grow your company. So my own journey is this. I'm a single mother. I jumped off the corporate cliff when my daughter was 9 years old. And I figured, you know, I've done well in business, but corporate ladder was a slippery slope. And that changes often. And so if you didn't understand how to play that game, you were going to be frustrated a lot. Yeah. And so I realized very early on that I didn't want to put my future in somebody else's hand. That if I was ever going to achieve the level of success that I wanted, it would have to be through entrepreneurship. And so I started my business while I was still working in corporate America, and I was doing it part-time, which is how I met Robin. And I was very fortunate because my company started to grow. And then there came that day where I realized that I had a horrible boss. And really, she, you know, I can talk about how horrible she was, but at the end of the day, she was the catalyst I needed to make me make that ultimate decision. Okay, are you going to stay here and wear a mask for the rest of your life and cope just to have a job? Or are you going to jump? And so what did I do? I jumped, literally. So I jumped into corporate America, and believe it or not, that's me actually jumping out of an airplane 2 years ago in Chester, South Carolina. So I'm a daredevil. So I jumped, so I literally jumped. And my date was October 5th, 2012. That was the day I turned in my resignation and I walked out the door. And it was the smartest thing I could have ever done, because it was almost like the world was waiting on me to make that decision. Because within a week, I landed a contract. Because people knew me for the work that I was doing. And that contract led me also in that week to a chamber meeting in Charlotte, where I met a lady, and I stood up and pitched who I was to the group in the room. And a lady walked up to me and said, "I need your business card." And at the time, I didn't have a business card or a website. But I said, if you give me your card, I'll make sure I'll follow up. And that meeting led me 2 months later to landing a contract that completely replaced my monthly salary. So I knew I was on to something because I was throwing out a figure. And I don't play small. So it was a premium contract where I'm replacing my salary. And I was in administration in the hospital. So that tells you a lot. And from there, I ended up learning more about, in the next month, I learned about the certification process and government contracting. I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I figured it's not going to hurt. Government certifications are free to file. You don't have to pay anything for it. And really what they're asking me for is just information about my business and certain documents that you have to submit with the package. And so I actually submitted the paperwork, partnered with another small business owner, because when you submit that paperwork, you'll start getting bids in your email. So I sold one, partnered with another small business owner, and within 90 days I landed a contract with the CAT system in Charlotte, which is the Charlotte Area Transit System. Well, what I learned is that's a game changer, because guess what? The government has a whole lot of money. And so what I do now is I spend a lot of my time teaching other small business owners how not to play small and how to land a premium contract in a short period of time so that you can have an anchor for your business, grow your company, diversify your revenue, and hire employees. Because believe it or not, you can hire employees even when you have a government contract. So that's my story. So I'm telling it from my perspective and what I've known to be true for me, and hopefully can share something today that will work for you. So my company is an award-winning consulting firm. As a result of that work that I did just in that first year of landing contracts, my company was selected in 18 months as a Minority Business Enterprise of the Year for the City of Charlotte in Mecklenburg County. We also landed, I landed as the Women in Business Achievement Award for the Charlotte Business Journal that same year. And then Robin did a story on me on her show, Access 21. I was on the cover, the back cover of CPCC, and in their personal story about my success using Central Piedmont Community College for classes and certifications and learning more about business. And then I kept going and getting more certifications. So I got certified with HUB, which is the North Carolina State certification for you to do business with government agencies. I have the Section 3 business concern, excuse me, with the Housing Authority in Charlotte, so I can do business with the Housing Authority. I got certified as a small professional services firm with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, and I'm also selected as a disadvantaged business enterprise, excuse me, Robin, can you give me some water, excuse me, with the North Carolina DOT, which is actually a federal contracting program. And then finally, last year I got certified as a woman-owned small business at the federal level. So I started at the local level, went to state as well, and then finally, after past performance under my belt, went on ahead and got the certification at the federal level. And again, I landed my contract in 90 days. So that kind of pushed me out front a little bit, and people wanted to know more about what I knew about government contracting. For me, there are 5 steps that I've learned for certification. Thank you. Thank you. And while Bert is opening that up, I knew I recognized him because I went to DiverseLink in Raleigh back in January, and he's passing it out. And it was a phenomenal conference. And as a result of me meeting a few folks at that conference, Bert, I want you to know that I landed a prime consulting contract and a subcontract as a result of that contract. So thank you. And I told him he needed to come to Charlotte, and he is coming to Charlotte. So thank you for that as well. So there are 5 steps to getting certified or landing your first premium contract. And the first thing is, of course, getting certified. And I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. Second is do your research and your homework on your customer. Because government is a different animal, and you have to understand their language. But when you do, again, it can be a game changer. The third step is marketing to government. Because it's not like you're just walking up giving them a business card. They have a thing called a capability statement, which is a marketing tool that we use in government. The biggest thing, and what most people don't do enough of, is relationship building. Because they have to know that you exist. Because while there are formal RFPs, what we call requests for proposals or invitation for bids, and all these acronyms, and we call it the alphabet soup. So there are ways that they send them out formally. But there are also informal contracts. And if you have not taken the time to meet with folks, whether it's in government, or if you have not taken the time to meet with prime contractors who can hire you on contracts, you're going to miss some of those contracts. And then finally, it's how do you land that contract? And we'll talk a little bit about estimating and bidding and what that means. So again, there are a ton of certifications. There's what we call the alphabet soup. You can be a minority-owned business. Most white women are considered women-owned business, so let me make that clear. I know I'm a woman and I'm also a minority, but I'm only considered a minority-owned business at the local and state level. So please let me make that clear to you. There's small business enterprises, which is just a pool of anybody that's considered a small business. And that's at the city and county level for many of us. The city of Rowan, from what I hear and hear, you register as a vendor. So they just have a vendor application for their process if you want to do business here. As I mentioned, the Charlotte Housing Authority, I'm sure the Rowan has a housing authority here, where we have what we call the Section 3 business concern to do business with them. And then you can run the gamut from the state on down to the federal level. And I always advise my clients to get performance under your belt at the local and state level first, before you go to the federal level, because that's your playing ground to make your mistakes and stumble around before you start messing with the federal government's money, right? So, but I do serve as a federal contracting consultant for the Small Business Development Technology Center, so we can do any certification for our clients. When it comes to eligibility for certification, I mean, it's very simple. You have to be a for-profit company, no nonprofits here. You have to have, for the city and the state, for the city in Charlotte, specifically a personal net worth of $750,000, and that excludes your primary residence. And at the state level, it's about $1.2 billion. You have to be 51% owned by minority or woman to be declared a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business. You can be a solopreneur, micropreneur. You can have 1 to 49 employees. You can have 50 plus employees. It just depends on the threshold they require for the certification. And then getting certified. Getting certified is not as difficult as most people think. Because the first myth I wanted to dispel is they do not look at your credit. So some people just steer clear because they're like, Lord, they're going to check my credit and realize I am not worthy of this. That is not true. They don't go by your credit. And some of them do look at your tax returns or balance sheet, but that's to make sure that your personal net worth does not exceed their threshold. Now, yes, you have to have tax returns and a balance sheet. No, you can't have receipts in a shoebox and bags. And trust me, there are still people that operate that way. So it kind of forces you to get your infrastructure in place. But other things like if you have a lease for a building that you're in as office space or storage space, your articles of incorporation if you're registered at the state level, an assumed name registration if you're a sole proprietor, operating agreement or shareholders agreement, depending on the type of legal entity that you are, they're going to require it. If you have trucks, they're going to want to see a haul authority if you have trucks, or a US DOT number, and sometimes they'll ask for insurance certificates. So really basic things that you should have for your business anyway. So we're not making it more complicated than what you are. They just want to make sure that you're a viable business. Second, they want to, there are benefits to certification. Number one, professional certifications, as I mentioned, positions your company for success to do business with government. So I can tell you very personally that for me, even on a small contract in government, I may do a contract that's 4 to 6 months. I work about 10 to 20 hours per month for them, and my average sale is about $20,000. That's average sale. And that's a small contract. I have clients that are killing it in the game. I mean, they're making 1.2. I have a client that's made about $2 million in construction just in 18 months. There are 14 projects from getting certified. So this is a game changer. And you get to hire people, so just think about that even at the smallest level, you can make money here. It positions your company for success in landing contracts. You get to diversify your revenue. You get to hire employees. I was able to hire my sister full-time, so she works with me, and she handles all of my certifications. She also handles trainings because I'm on a contract where I'm doing trainings for DBE certified firms for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And it increases the sustainability of your company. So this is an anchor while you're still doing anything else that you're doing in your business. So consider certification as a way to grow your company. You have to do your research on your customer, as I mentioned. Customer intelligence is important. What departments buy what you sell? Because government buys a lot of things. I mean, believe it or not, people would say, well, they don't help the hair salons. And I had a contract that came out with the housing authority where they were hiring a salon to come in and do hair for their clients on site. So they buy a lot of things. Of course, they buy equipment. They buy, those of us who are consultants, they hire me to come in and do general administrative services and trainings and things of that nature. So they buy a lot of things. Who buys what you sell? And then what similar services are purchased by these departments? When was the last contract awarded? Because you can ask them these questions. And then who won the last contract, and can I have a copy of the winning proposal? Because it's public information. So you can find out what their competitive advantage was, how they priced it, what made them unique and different, and then go back and apply yourself by offering them something more and greater. So it's public information. So you have to know this when you're going into this. Again, there are formal and informal contracts. So formal contracts, they typically will bid out. In the city of Charlotte, if a contract is over $300,000 in construction, it's formal. If it's over $100,000 for professional service providers such as myself, it's formal. If it's under $300,000, $299,999, it's informal, meaning they don't have to email the bid to you. So if you haven't done your due diligence with relationship building, they don't know to call you because you haven't met with them. If it's a professional service provider, if the contract is under $100,000, $99,999, they don't know to call you. So you have to meet with them, explain who you are, and ask a ton of questions. Ask plenty of questions because they are looking for us, because they're not meeting their contracting goals, because the government has contracting goals to meet. So if you're not meeting with them, you're missing a large sum of money at times that really can be a game changer for you. So just know there are informal and formal contracts. Informal you may never hear about if you have not met with them. Marketing your company, again, we talked about a capability statement, which is a little bit different because it's a one-sheeter that gives a brief overview of who you are, what your unique differentiators are, what your past performance has been, and then all the codes that the government go by to identify what you do, because they have a ton of codes. It can be what we call NIGP codes or NAICS codes, and I know some of this it may be foreign to some of you, but just trust me, they go by codes. Many of us don't walk in with this, but when you walk in with this, they know you know a little bit something about what you do. So you have to have a capability statement because it speaks the government language. It highlights who your company is, what your areas of specialty are, but again, it sets you apart. Believe it or not, in the city of Charlotte, only 11% of us in business are considered minority-owned business. Only 11%, which means the market is wide open for us to take advantage of. Relationship building is everything. Who do you need to know, and who needs to know you? Because there are several roles that you can play. Agency reps need to know that you exist, as I mentioned. Prime contractors need to know that you exist. Because if it's a $100 million contract, you may not have the capacity to take that on as a prime. But I promise you, even a small piece as a subcontractor in that could be $1 million. As a subcontractor. And a lot of these contracts, some are small, they may be a few months long, but many of them are 3 to 5 years. So we have contracts going on right now in Charlotte where they're going to rebuild on South Boulevard. It's a $330 million project over 5 years. We have a $700 million project that's over 10 years coming. So these projects, you are working for years if you do a great job and provide quality service. Prime contractors need to know you in that space. Teaming partners. I had this happen recently where I was going after the contract that Bert introduced me to for the DOT. But I partnered with another agency. I was going for the contract in Charlotte. He was going for the contract in Raleigh. I placed him on my contract as a sub in Charlotte. He placed me on his as a sub in Raleigh. We both won. I landed a prime contract and a subcontract in that same space. Yeah. That's what teaming is. And then joint venture partners. So believe it or not, when I partnered with a small business owner for CATS, that very first contract, it was a joint venture. They allowed us to come together as one entity. One check got sent to one person, but we came together as a joint venture, and we were able to do that contract for CATS. So there are all kinds of ways to make money in this. So I say we can do more together than apart. We can do more together than apart. So when you find folks that you can trust and that will do the work, you can grow together. It's not one size fits all or just a me-only mentality. Figure out how you can grow with groups because you certainly can land many, many contracts that way. And the last is landing the contracts. I've talked about how I've landed contracts and the work that I've done. But bidding on a contract, you have to show competitive advantage. And I told you that it's public information, so you can find this information if you ask them for it. They have to release it to you. It's public information. So ask for winning proposals. And then learn how they did their competitive advantage and expertise because it teaches you how to present yourself to them as well. Understand the technical approach or methodology. What do you want to do that's different? Because they may say, I can do it this way, but you can say, I'll add another little twist to it they hadn't thought about, which gives me just a little bit more advantage. So think about the approach. Pricing strategies. Believe it or not, the government has its own calculator. online where most people don't know that you can find it. So if you can go in and find that, you can understand how to price your service. And if if that doesn't work, then you can certainly go to the Small Business Development Technology Center, because I went to them and said, I don't know how to price this for this contract. Can you assist me with this? And they took me straight to the calculator and we worked with the numbers. And I landed the contract. So you have to know how they price, because a lot of times we go in and we may overbid because we just didn't know how to price it. But the winning proposal will help. Going to a Small Business Development Technology Center will help, or if you know where their online calculator is, you can figure that out. And then finally, what happens is you submit this stellar and compelling proposal, and if they like you, sometimes they'll just give you the contract because there may not be other competitors who were close to what you offered, or they may make you they may shortlist you and bring you in for an interview and presentation. And so in that case, you'll have an interview team that interviews you. You have to present who you are, present your approach, and they'll ask you a ton of questions in order for you to land that contract. But at the end of the day, when you do this enough times and when you learn this process, and again, we're short-circuiting this because this is a lot what many people will not tell you, you can land. This is a game changer for many people. So a few valuable tips, and I'm sorry, part of it you can't see, but certifications alone are enough. That's just the first part. Put your paperwork in place. But when you do, then you can go and do your research and find out which customers buy what you sell. Spend time building the relationships before you submit the bids and proposals, because a lot of times people submit and they don't know who you are because you haven't done your due diligence in that space. If you don't meet with agency reps, you're going to miss out on many contracts. Again, we talked about formal versus informal. And then finally, remember that your customer is buying you first and then your product and service. Questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know, who can we talk to help if we don't know how to price? You said they take us straight to the calculator and tell them you don't understand. What was that? I missed that part.
So she asked how to price and who could help with that. So I specifically went to, in Charlotte, at UNCC, they have a place called the Portal at UNCC where the Small Business Development Technology Center is. And there's a gentleman there by the name of Richard Spates, who is the procurement coordinator. And they can talk you through that calculator. Because in that calculator, they ask everything from your education, your experience, what the title is of what you're doing, etc. But they also can help you with other things like 8A and GSA, which also goes by pricing. So Small Business Development Technology Center is where I went to get the help. Other questions for me?
So LaPronda's information is this sheet. Excuse me. Okay. So the question was for your business card.
My business card. So unfortunately, the cards didn't come in time for me to come here today. So what I did was put my information at the back of the last slide. And I'll actually move it to this. But it's the last slide in the handout. Any other questions? Was that helpful for some of you? Good. Thank you very much for having me. I look forward to your success and seeing you at the top.
Thank you, LaPronda. Woo! Let's give her another hand. Thank you. You know, I started out in business as a 14-year-old, and this journey that we are all on requires that kind of information. I'm so grateful for who LaPronda is, what she does, and her giving us a presence, right? She said 11%, giving us a presence in the industry. So as we're going forward, I hope you took copious notes on the handout and you at least take it home. And before I bring the next speaker up, there's a lot of information on your table. Please make sure that you are taking that information, filling it out. The SE School information is there, and everything else that you need. Also on the table is information about the Diverse Link Contractor Opportunities and Inclusion Summit. I met Bert Carrington, and he's already had an introduction through LaPronda and the success that they've had, and that's amazing. That is amazing. And we're here for the connections, yes? Right? We came out for the connections. We came out to collaborate. We came out to communicate with one another. We came out to do business with one another and to get to the transaction. Right? So thank you, LaPronda, for taking us to what we're worth, right? And not playing small.
Right.
So, got an amen corner. Thank you. I love it. Because it takes energy to run your own business. So you wonder why I get up here and I clown around, and it takes energy to get up and do this every day for yourself, right? Because nobody's signing a paycheck for you on Friday when you do it like we do.